Have you ever been in a conversation with a leader where they're telling you about how they handle the situation where they know of two of their team members who are fighting with each other? And they'll say something like, well, I believe in empowering my team. I mean, they're grown-ups. So if one or both of them come to me individually and start griping about the other person, I just send them back to each other because they need to work it out. And then that's that. They assume that they've done what they needed to do. They assume that they're doing empowering leadership. But I call it hot potato leadership. Like the image suggests, the leader gets handed a hot potato and they don't want to deal with it, so they throw it back to their team members. Now, is that really the best use of their leadership? The reason we're talking about hot potato leadership in this power passage is that sometimes leaders have a tendency to leave the authority that they have that comes with their role. They're leaving it in some back closet somewhere and not using it exactly when they should. It's a shame too, because by not using their authority and not dealing with these hot potato issues, even though they think they're empowering their team, they're doing the exact opposite. And it's a shame because they actually could be helping out their team way more than they are. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that team members do have the resilience to work out many conflicts among themselves, and they don't really have to run to the leader with every little skirmish between them as though the leader were a school principal. But there is a principle that the leader needs to be aware of so that they can tell when they don't have to get involved with a team conflict and when they absolutely should get involved. And that principle is, when team members have an unresolved conflict, the leader has two jobs to do to address that conflict. This principle really clears things up for both the leader and the disputing team members. Leaders have to stop hiding behind the assumption that the conflict is due to team members not getting along, or showing emotional immaturity, or they're being short-sighted, or that more time talking together will somehow magically clear up those developmental deficits. Here are the two jobs a leader has when team members are in conflict. First, one-to-one meetings with each of the team members to clarify expectations about how they want team members to collaborate with each other. That is an appropriate use of the leader's authority, not leaving team members to continue to duke it out without using expected team behaviors. Some leaders balk at this because they say, but you can't change people's personalities. It's too heavy-handed and disrespectful to try to change people's character. But this isn't about changing personalities. This isn't a personality transplant operation. This is about having a reasonable expectation that team members collaborate, using a specific set of behaviors that convey clarity, trust, empathy, and cooperation. Here's a specific example of a collaborative behavior. Leaders can expect team members to talk to each other live, no emails, no texts, about any broken expectations between them. Or they can expect team members to ask for feedback and approval of any plans that involve the staff of another team member. A leader certainly has the right to have those expectations and to enforce those expectations. The second job a leader has when team members are in conflict is identifying turf and decision authority issues and stepping in when they need to be clarified. This is where the gold is. Too often team members clash over issues that seem as though they are purely between them, and they just haven't found common ground yet. But if a leader looks more closely, they see that the team members differ over something that they have yet to recognize is non-resolvable between them, because neither one has the authority to trump the other. Neither one has the ace to win that hand, to win that argument. It's the leader who is holding the ace, meaning the team members are fighting over boundary issues between their roles, or resource allocation of labor, or budget, and neither one of them has the decision-making authority to make the call. But because they disagree with what they want the decision to be, they fail to see that on this issue, they actually need to go to their boss to make the decision, not because their peer is being uncooperative, but because neither one of them can resolve the issue or make the call. So you see then that the leader, sending two colliding peers back to each other, is not exercising enough curiosity about the issue to see if perhaps the leader is prolonging the conflict by turning them away to brawl with each other some more. So why do leaders do that? When leaders engage in hot potato leadership, they are expressing their chronic anxiety, living with less favorable circumstances in order to avoid a challenge that's embedded in the issue. The issue is actually tailor-made for the leader, inviting them to face this uncomfortable conflict head on. They either don't have the confidence and/or the competence to resolve the issue, so they keep pseudo-empowering the team members to more frustrating discussions. If you want a refresher on the difference between chronic and acute anxiety, go to the videos in the presence passage and you will find the video on chronic and acute anxiety there. You can help leaders face their challenge to use their authority in this situation and do it with backbone and heart. The first thing you can do is scan for who has the decision authority in an issue when the leader talks to you about team members quarreling. Secondly, you can check to see if the leader has clear, specific behavioral expectations of team members during discussions when they differ. If the leader has failed to do either one of these jobs during team conflict, and they are nervous about doing them now, then you can help the leader plan and prep for that discussion with team members, as we've discussed in a previous video from the presence passage. This hot potato leadership situation is a good example of how the Systemic Executive Coach roadmap passages build on one another. Notice how, though we are in the power passage, we use the previous passages to help the leader use their authority effectively and humanely. To recap, we used the first passage, principles, when I mentioned that this principle is going to help guide you in your coaching of the leader in a hot potato situation. The principle of when team members have an unresolved conflict, the leader has 2 jobs to do to address that conflict. The principle guides you to help the leader realize that they are very likely the one who is prolonging the conflict between 2 team members. Using that principle as a guide for your coaching, it then takes the second passage, presence, on the part of both of you and your client to help them turn their chronic anxiety into productive acute anxiety and face this issue they have been avoiding. And it takes presence as well to plan and prep for the conversations that the leader needs to be ready for with those team members. So the issue is addressed, resolved, and new behaviors are happening in both team members and their boss. And now you truly are in the third passage, where a leader is using their authority to help teams collaborate with each other, get back on track with each other, so that they can work productively and achieve results. And you have used the principles, the presence, and the power passages of the roadmap to help this leader be able to pull that off and to get out of hot potato leadership and more into trustworthy, humane use of their authority. And in essence, to help their teams get back on track and to do their work.